Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I have 4 simple and easy weeknight what's for dinners to share with you. For our first meal, I am making a really easy pot of soup using some canned ingredients, some ground meat, and some fresh ingredients also, such as carrots and celery that I am trying to revive in a glass of water. I tend to get tongue-tied showing ingredient lists, so I'm just showing you a picture. First, I am browning up a pound of lean ground beef. This is 90-10. And a pound of hot Italian sausage, although this Italian sausage is not actually hot, so don't let that scare you off. It's just what they had on hand at my Walmart. They were pretty much out of a lot of selections, and so I just went with it because we are not afraid of hot and spicy. I added some minced garlic and some onion powder, and then didn't realize that I added garlic powder also, so lots of garlic going into this pot of soup, but that's okay because my husband loves garlic. I'm adding a couple of teaspoons, well, bigger teaspoons because I heaped them up pretty good, of this beef bouillon base, and then I'm going to start chopping up my carrots and my celery. I have a little dish of jalapeno peppers there to the side that came from my garden. Well, I thought they were jalapenos, but I'm not really thinking so at this point. They're not very spicy, but I did plant a lot of varieties of peppers, and some of them got mixed in with each other, so I wasn't sure if they were jalapenos or something else, and I think these may have been something a little milder because they definitely were not hot. But anyway, they came from my garden. I chopped them up a while ago and froze them in my freezer so that on days like today, I would have some already prepped veggies to throw into soups. And so I got I just don't enjoy chopping up veggies, so I got my food chopper out and finished it off in there. My meat was taking a while to get browned up. It was partially frozen when I started. So I'm doing the peel and the scrape and flip method where you cook it and then you scrape it off and then you flip it again and scrape it until you get it all cooked up. And I am adding a can of beer to this meat to be the base for the broth. And then I'm just going to throw in my veggies. Since this is really lean ground beef, I won't be needing to drain it, so I can finish the whole cooking process, sorry about that, in one pot. So I am going to throw in the celery and the carrots into this pot, and then I'm going to save the rest for another recipe in my refrigerator. And so the peppers are going in, and then I chopped up the tops of the celery and added that also. They add a lot of flavor to your soups. I'm adding a can of diced tomatoes with onions, and those are the only onions that I'm adding. I just have been on a no onion kick, and it's too bad for my husband because he really loves onions, and we normally put onions in every recipe that we make. So I also put in a can of potatoes and a small can of mushrooms. My husband and I really like mushrooms, and the kids do not, but honestly, I didn't think that they would probably eat much of the soup anyway. And sometimes it's not always about them. So mushrooms it is. And I just put the lid on and then let it cook until it came up to a simmer or a boil. And I did add some crushed red pepper because, you know, we like to have some heat in our foods sometimes. We like the spicy stuff. So anyway, I forgot about that. And then I put the lid back on, and then I let that come up to a nice boil. Then I turned it down and put it on simmer. We did have something to go through too that day, so I just turned that off. And when we came back home, we had our nice warm soup for dinner. And these two are so into football right now. That's all they did was play football with their friends at the park. And then we ended up having some cake and ice cream, open presents, and this is baby brother on the right, just wanting to be part of the cake action here. So we now have an 11 and a 10-year-old. Okay, it's one of those weird days where I'm working one of those split shifts where I go in at 11 in the morning and I get out at 8 at night. So I am throwing in a ham in the crock pot. This is a Sugardale ham. I believe it cost $15. So I'm going to put that in the crock pot, and I'm going to throw in some potatoes, some carrots, and the celery that was left over from the day before when I made that delicious soup. And I had put the remainder of the carrots and celery in the fridge because I knew I would use it again the next day. And so I was having a little bit of trouble getting the ham to fit in the crock pot, and that happens when you do ham in a crock pot, obviously. I looked for the smallest one that I could find in the style of ham. Yeah, I guess there are many varieties of ham. So this is the one that I picked out and thought it would fit in my crock pot, and luckily I could just cut off the one end and get it all in there with the lid on it. And I just washed and quartered some potatoes, and I'm just throwing them in all around the sides of the potatoes, and then I'll just add my carrots and celery, garlic powder, onion powder, salt and pepper. That's it. I didn't want to do any kind of brown sugar or anything because I was putting my veggies right in the crock pot with the ham. This way I know that my family will be able to eat while I'm not home tonight to make dinner for them, and it'll be easy and kind of have everything all in one dish. So we always use our crock pot year round, but for some reason crock pot and fall just seems to go together, and ham and veggies just seems like such a comforting and warm fall meal. So that's what's for dinner. I just added a cup of water to that in the end just so that there would be some liquid to start with, although the ham will make its own liquid also, and it will probably be full of liquid when hubby turns it off later, but it'll be so good once it soaks into those potatoes and those carrots and celery. And hopefully I feel like eating ham when I get home after work, and if not, I will just have some the next day. And I think that ham is so underrated as being an easy meal. You can just throw it in a crock pot or throw it in the oven and forget about it for a couple of hours, and it's already cooked. You're just heating it back up. And so it's one of my go-tos for a quick and easy meal to put together. And my crock pot has to share space with my coffee maker to be able to get the cord to reach the plug. So I'm just putting that on high for now, and when I go to work I'll turn it on low. Like I mentioned, I wasn't home for dinner that night, but I did put some in a container to take to work the next day for my lunch, and I was able to put up some ham in the freezer for future recipes that will make making meals in the future so much easier and quicker. Now I'm getting my cast iron skillet heated up to make some sausage gravy. It was a cold and rainy fall day here in Michigan, and I had some errands to run after work, so when I was done, I just wanted to make something nice and warm for dinner and curl up with a blanket and watch a movie or something for the rest of the evening. So I'm just getting this sausage cooked up, and I am just going to take a couple of scoops out and put it in a bowl to reserve for the inside of the omelets that I'm making to go with this sausage gravy. Then I added a half a cup of all-purpose flour to the sausage and just stirred that in. For some reason, this package of sausage did not make up that much oil or grease or whatever. And so I was having a hard time getting my flour to coat and cook in with this sausage, and you really want to have that adhere to your sausage pieces and get nice and brown to get that flour flavor out of your gravy. You don't want your gravy just to taste like flour. So I do end up putting a couple of spoonfuls of butter in this sausage and flour just so that it has more oil in it to get the gravy to cook the way that I want it to and to taste the way that I want it to. So here I am just mixing that butter in now until it's all nice and melted and my flour has a chance to cook in with the sausage and get nice and coated. And this is going to be what thickens up your gravy. I just keep turning and mixing that until it all gets mixed in and that flour's had a chance to cook real good. And then I just pour in some milk, just enough to cover the sausage. I usually don't measure this part out. I just make it a nice rule that it just covers the gravy and then it will come to a boil and all thicken up. I meant cover the sausage and then the gravy will boil and thicken up. I add a good amount of black pepper to my sausage gravy. That's just how we like it. And so while that is coming to a boil and getting thick, I start on my omelets by putting some cooking spray in the bottom of a skillet, and then I just pour in some beaten eggs. And then I'm just going to move them around until the top part where the egg is still runny runs to the bottom and it all gets cooked through. I always add some salt and pepper to the inside of the egg, the omelet. I like the seasoning to be on the inside. Otherwise, if I just season the outside, then that's the only place that you can taste it. And that is kind of what had put me off on omelets all these years until I started seasoning the inside and I found that I liked them a lot better that way. So here I am just pulling back the edges where the egg is cooked and just letting the runny part run down so that it can also get cooked. And then you just keep doing this until you get all of the uncooked part of the egg on top down into the pan where it can cook. And there are many different ways to make an omelet, and I've seen people put a lid on or flip the whole thing over, and I just never really had much luck with that. So this is how I do it. And so once I have all of that egg cooked through, you absolutely do not want runny egg in the middle of your omelet. So make sure that whatever way you do it, you just get that egg cooked. And so I'm adding some of that sausage to half of the egg and some cheese. And that's all I'm putting on these omelets for that day. I usually add some mushrooms and cooked onions to our omelets. That's just how my husband and I like to have them. Cameron was the only child home this day, and he doesn't eat eggs, so I was only doing 2 omelets on that night, so it was perfect because who wants to stand over a stove and make several omelets for several people? So here is my finished omelet, and I just had some toast with mine and called it good. And so here I put the gravy on my toast and on my omelet. Cameron just had toast with sausage gravy, and then Bill doesn't really eat much bread, so he just has his on his omelet, and that was a quick and easy breakfast for dinner. For this last quick and easy dinner idea, I started off by putting some cut up smoked sausage into my cast iron skillet and then realized I wouldn't have room for anything else, so I'm transferring them to a bigger pan, and then looking back, what happened was I ended up moving them out of the pan back into the cast iron skillet to make room for the pierogies and the vegetables that I needed to heat up separately. So I did dirty up 2 pans on this night, but it's okay. They were both easy to clean. So after I browned up the sausages to the desired amount of burnt that we like on the edges, I then put a little bit of oil into my pan and added the frozen Mrs. T's mini pierogies. I just added some seasoning salt to those and just gave them a nice saute or whatever you want to call it until they were nice and golden brown. I added some chopped up bell peppers and onions, and when I was doing my grocery order, it was way more expensive to buy the peppers separately, and I already had onions, but the frozen bag of the mixture was only $1.83, so I went with that just to save a couple dollars. And so once I had my pierogies and my veggies all cooked through, I just added the sausage back into the pan, and that was all for this dinner. This was really quick and under 30 minutes to prepare. So I really liked having that in my rotation for what to make for dinner after a work day when you don't feel like cooking. Well, I didn't feel like working either, but anyway, I made some green beans to go with it, and this was what we had for dinner. So that was quick and easy. And that is the last dinner that I have to share with you for this video. If you liked it, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Bye for now.